Welcome back, YouTube fan, and I am splendiferously excited to talk about the continuation of this communication series with the anxiously attached individual and their communication style. But before we talk about that, let me tell you about myself and also this channel. So I am a doctor, I have masters, I have done multiple businesses, I've taught at major universities. So basically I'm just a super nerd, because if I don't know it myself or experience it myself, I do the research on it to be able to help people in this community. I'm also a single dad, or I take care of my daughter majority of the time. And also I've learned things through parenting that from the working side of it and also the main caretaker side of it. And this is why I really started this channel, was for my daughter. So we have multiple things we talk about. We talk about relationships, we talk about parenting or being a single dad, personal growth, and attachment theory. Now, I do think all these things do combine together, which is why this channel was started. But let's go into, before we get started into the anxiously attached in the communication style, we need to understand attachment theory. So we're gonna go into that, and then we're gonna go straight into the meat of this information. So easy breakdown on attachment theory. More in-depth video here that I've done earlier, so check that out. But attachment theory, just you have a caregiver and you have a child. And depending on that relationship between that caregiver and the child sees modeling from that caregiver on how to handle relationships, how to show up in relationships. So when that child gets older, what happens is they start to look for what's familiar, and they look for relationships that they're used to, and also replicate the modeling that was shown to them by that caregiver. And so there's 4 major attachment styles. You have 1 secure attachment style and 3 insecure attachment styles. That'll be anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, and also fearful avoidant. Now there's different terms you can use. You can look that up again in another video I talked about. But what happens with the secure attachment, they usually have a positive view of themselves, and they have a positive view of the people. Because they were modeled healthy relationships and how to communicate, they know what's familiar, that's normal, and so they'll only be around people, and they know they can trust people that have that characteristics that they were modeled before. Compared to anxious preoccupied, they have a negative view of themselves, but a positive view of the people. So what happens in those situations, they actually don't trust themselves, so they try to look for other people. And that usually happens because of inconsistent parenting, sometimes helicopter parenting. And you have dismissive avoidant, which they have a positive view of themselves and a negative view of the people. That's usually done by neglect. By childhood, they had nobody watching them, so they had to rely on themselves, and they don't really trust other people because they weren't really there. And then you have fearful avoidant. Usually what happens in the situation, they have a negative view of themselves and a negative view of the people, because usually some type of abuse was in that situation. Now, you can kind of see how that can affect communication. And so we're gonna go into depth on that in individual attachment styles in this series. All right, so anxiously attached individuals and the communication tactics, they have a unique way of maneuvering through relationships to actually get what they want, but it's not usually healthy. But before we talk about those tactics, I want to talk about the 3 major fears that everybody is born with. The fear of falling, the fear of loud noises, and a fear of abandonment. Now that fear of abandonment, each person has different tactics on how they actually cope with that abandonment. All right, secure individuals have healthy ways, and insecure, like the anxiously attached individual, have unhealthy ways, all right? And one of those unhealthy ways is nagging, which means a constant need for reassurance and validation. But what exactly does constant need of reassurance and validation really mean? Like, it's so relative. How I define it is, if you have a need for reassurance and then time has passed and you need another need of reassurance and nothing has changed, why'd you ask? Now, if you have a need for reassurance and through it the next time there's some behavior change happening in the partner, or the relationship feels like it's really changed, and then now you're asking, now you have something valid to ask, because if somebody says why you're asking, you have something tangible to talk about, right? But this also stems from, again, that abandonment, but also the feeling of they don't know when they're loved. Growing up, they had inconsistent parenting, so they don't know when they're loved, so they're always constantly checking in to make sure that they're doing good on their part, right? That alleviates their stress and anxiety, but it causes strain onto the relationship. And that strain in the relationship can make it be very overwhelming for that partner, because think about it, if I'm always getting constantly validated or constantly validating somebody and nothing has changed, the kid might, are we okay? Yeah. Are we okay? Yeah. You asked me 3 times and nothing's changed. Are you even trusting that I am telling you what the truth is? And that can cause, again, strain in the relationship. which can lead into the next thing, which is number 2, smothering. The constant need for being close, like constantly checking up on where they're doing, or at their job, where they're at, and looking at the location. And so it kind of alleviates their stress because they constantly know where they are. They feel like that person's not going to leave. But that can be super suffocating for the partner, but also it can be like, just feel like the person feels trapped and also controlled within the relationship. And that's one aspect, but the other part of it could be that the person just has lack of faith and belief in themselves because they grew up with helicopter parents that did every decision for them. So now they're constantly looking at their partner to be their emotional regulation for them because that's what they were used to growing up. And number 3, they could be like oversensitive to the person's actions and what they say and their words. Now, this is not just for anxiously attached. That's usually for all insecure attachments. They have their own ways of working on it, but with the anxiously attached, they have these activating strategies like nagging and being smothered. And lastly, they express their emotions in dramatic and intense ways. And because when they do that, that can be really misunderstanding of what's going on, but also it can cause a lot of conflict within a relationship because it's just maybe being more intense where things could be more calm, or it could trigger somebody else because of how intense they're actually bringing up a certain issue that they feel. Now, in different environments, it can have different effects. Like in the environment of relationships, it can cause jealousy, it can cause intimacy issues, but also it can cause aggressive behaviors to a point where they're trying to get control over that individual, right? While in the work situation, you have situations where they don't have a clear understanding of their own boundaries, and so they can get very taken advantage of their time and things that they've done, and that can be problematic in their work environment. Right? But what are some things that can really help? Let's talk about that next. Now, what are some ways for an anxiously attached individual to help with the communication style within relationships? And the best way is go to therapy, all right? Work on oneself, right? Go to therapy, which I'm a pro advocate. Go to therapy. And if you don't like therapy, it's probably because you haven't found the right one. And I have a good video on finding a good therapist. You can check that out. Mindfulness and meditation, okay? And then also, next thing is maybe number 2 is being with a secure individual. Being with a secure individual can model the behaviors that was lacking when you grew up in a caregiver that was maybe inconsistent or a helicopter parent, right? And they can leave space and show that there's better ways and better tactics to get the outcomes you're looking for. Now, these are things you got to kind of keep from doing, all right? Stop hinting about what your needs are and what you want. You got to tell people what you want and give them an opportunity to see if they can meet you where you are. There's no litmus of what's going on. They don't know if they're doing right or wrong, and then you get all this conjuring up this craziness in your head that this person loves me and go from there. Which kind of leads into the second part, was to stop inferring their reality. Sometimes they get so bogged down that in their minds, they're very good about their feelings, understanding it, but they get stuck in it and they start conjuring up this whole story and idea that it's fabricated, and then they start to believe that it's actually true, right? So stay in reality, right? Stay in reality with the facts, which meditation and mindfulness can help understand how to block out the extra noise to truly understand better tactics on how to get what you want, but also understand truly how you feel. And number 3, reassurance is not bad, all right? Asking for it is not a bad thing, but have a rationale why that is going on and why you're asking reassurance instead of just doing willy-nilly, right? Asking for intimacy, asking for things you need, again, kind of leads into the first one, but it's not inherently bad, right? And the 4th thing is, if somebody is not willing to meet you for your reassurance, then maybe that's not the right person for you, and because the relationship is going to be in trouble anyways, because it won't better meet that need for reassurance. So it goes both ways of working on yourself and finding somebody who's willing to meet you in the middle. That's where a healthy relationship happens. So, final thoughts. Like and subscribe. Bam, do it. Like and subscribe. And also give me some comments. But true final thoughts, we have to understand that nobody's perfect. And we're always trying to get better and improve. But the best way to improve is understanding that our conscious mind only holds about 50 to 200 bits of information per second, compared to your subconscious mind, which has about 20 million bits per second. And you start to realize that we're not consciously making decisions. Most of that stuff is coming subconsciously through our belief patterns, subconsciously through our habits, subconsciously through our fears and traumas, and it's projecting into our thoughts. But if we can start to slowly use our conscious mind to help change those behavior patterns little by little, now we can start, when it starts to come out, we have a decision to make if is this action actually serving me or not serving me. Again, like and subscribe, guys. Hope this information was beneficial and added value on bringing some awareness, but also some tactics on trying to improve. But as I end all my video conference calls, love your kids. Slow down and take time and give them a hug, because they desperately need it, and they need to be told that they're worthy no matter what situation they are. Because if they're not going to do that, they're going to start looking for that validation and worthiness from the outside, and that's when they start to really get into trouble. Well, thank you for coming. This is again a part of a series. We're going to do dismissive avoidant next, and I'm really excited to talk about that because that's a little bit of my background on being dismissive avoidant. So I'll have a lot more information and a lot more personal experiences to talk about. But until next time, see you then.